Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we have 5 free, cheap, simple, and easy ways to get trigger stops onto your PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS controllers. And if the video ends up being useful to you, all I ask is that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot and it takes me to another level. And if the video is really useful, then share it with a friend. You might help them save $10, $20, or even $100+. Okay, so the first trigger stop available to you that isn't really a trigger stop but will work just as well as any other trigger stop I'm going to show you throughout this video is just by changing your shooting action from your triggers to your bumpers. Almost all shooting video games will allow you to do that today, and yeah, it's not really a trigger stop, but it works just as well. It may take a little getting used to, but it will be a quicker actuation than having to pull down on the whole trigger.
Okay, for this method, you're going to have your zip ties, glue stick, scissors, and then a lighter. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to cut off just a nice little end piece, about an inch long, maybe a little shorter. Depends, I don't really know measurements like that. Then you're going to put them right there, okay? Perfect. You're going to heat up this glue stick right here. Heat it up. Heat it up until it's like, gluey, right? Heat it. And that's about good enough. Then what you have, you're gonna take one of these. Try to do it better than me. Take one of these and you're gonna take it on the back, like that. And you're gonna take it off. And then put it back there. Perfect. Then what you're going to do, you're going to heat it a little bit more. Now this part you want to be careful because you don't want to glue your trigger stops stuck any type of way. You're just going to now dab a little bit more on the side so that it really stays. Okay. Dab a little bit more on the side. There you go. Because you really want this trigger stop to stay. Alright, just cut it like that. Come on. There you go. And don't worry about the heat of the glue. It's usually not that hot. As you can see, I'm touching it. It's not a big deal. There you go. It's a little messy, but you could always clean it up a little bit later. Then you're going to do the same thing for the other side. And you just kind of let it hold for a little bit, and then boom, now you have trigger stops. Now I kind of overdid it a little on the left side, but the point of this video will show you how quickly you can get these trigger stops going. Again, I kind of did it a little messy, but the job is done. If you're a little bit more of an artist, you can clean stuff like this up or even restart and do it a much more cleaner way. Maybe use like other utensils, like maybe use a clamp to dab this piece onto the glue and then take it off instead of using your fingers. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but this, if you don't mind the look of it, it's the exact same thing and you can really use it hard, As you can see, they're not going anywhere, so nice, good trigger stops. You can also do the same thing for Xbox, though for Xbox, what I like to do is use the end of the zip ties because unlike a PlayStation controller, there's no height limit. You see there's like a hook here that you really can't go past. You can't put it higher than that. So you don't want something too large. You see, if I put something like this onto it, it would be pretty big and the controller wouldn't be able to register the function because it didn't press down long enough. So I had to go about it using those rectangular parts of it. But with an Xbox controller, you could place it just about up here. But with an Xbox controller, you could place it just about up here and then you would be fine. So that's what we're going to do now. Perfect. I did this one a lot cleaner. And then you just let it sit. And now, boom, you have trigger stops. See? And you can really use them. You can really see they're not going to go anywhere. Now, the beauty of this is that they're not permanent. You see, the glue that I used, it'll hold very well for a long time, so you don't need to stress yourself about whether or not it'll hold. But if in a situation where you realize that maybe you did it wrong, maybe you put them too low, so now they don't, it's not registering the press and everything like that, you can just apply a bit of pressure. I'll do it on the ugly one, and just take it right off, okay? So you could just do that, and then you'll be back in action, and then you could try it again, and then put it back on. You see, you can use Gorilla Glue or Crazy Glue if you would like. The only thing I would tell you is that once you get started, the process can be very tricky and very messy because, as you guys know, these types of glues, they start sticking very permanently very quickly. It'll be very difficult to undo any mistakes that you start making. So on your first go around, you may want to take the method that I just used, just so that in case you make any mistakes, you can always undo it, fix it, and then when you get used to it and very confident, then you could go for something a little bit more permanent like Crazy Glue and then keep it going. First, you're going to want to take this piece off. It's going to be a little hard, a little difficult, so you're really going to want to get in there and rip it off. If it proves to be a little too much for you, you can go get like a clamp or something, maybe like a plier to ply it off, but I'm just going to use my hand right here. You just got to really get aggressive with it. Yep, and it comes right off. Don't worry, you will not break it. I promise you, you will not break it. I wish people had told me that when I first came in. I thought it was gonna be I was really scared that I was gonna break my controller, but don't worry. The way these things are made, you will not break it. Maybe the 100th time that you do this, you might, but I've now done this at least 10 times now. You will not break it. So now that it's open, what you can do is that you can put something right here to get yourself a little bit of a trigger stop. So let me show you. I just took some foam that you tend to use for like studios and stuff like that. You take the foam, you cut off a small piece like I did here. Then you're going to put it right inside here, right into this crux right here. Hope you guys can see where I'm putting it in. Just this space right there. You're gonna put it right in there. Just gonna stuff it in. Yes, sir. And because it's foam, it's like a nice pusher, you know what I'm saying? And then once you've got it in, make sure that it's in. This is pretty much good. Once you've got it in, all you have to do is just kind of clamp this thing back on. It's gonna be a little tricky, but then boom, and then you have yourself a nice little trigger stop. So you can see the difference here. I took the batteries out, but look, see this down? See, it's hard to go down. So now you have a nice little trigger stop. Now, what some people will do is that they'll put like a bead on the inside. I'll show you some footage of that.
As you can see, that is one way of going about it, though I generally don't recommend it because you do run the risk of the object dropping deeper into the controller, which is something you really don't want. People also might put tissue in there, which is again another way of going about it, but I again don't really recommend that just because now the tissue, as you press it more and more and more, it'll start to break down, and then you get some particles that are similar to dust deeper in your controller, which can cause things like stick drift or controller malfunction. So the foam is a really good middle ground because it does give you that firmness while also making sure that it won't break down and cause any further issues.
Okay, so this next one is a little tricky, and you're probably going to want 2 thin pieces of tape on the side just for in case, and you'll see what I'm talking about towards the end. It's called the rubber band method, and probably one of the more famous methods for getting homemade trigger stops onto the PS5 controller. And it's really going to depend on the type of rubber band that you have. This is a little bit of a dirty, older rubber band, but this is one of the better rubber bands that suited this purpose. I have other rubber bands that also can work, but it really depends. You'll find that the slight differences between rubber bands can really affect how this method works. So the rubber band that I like to use better is this one. Then you're going to hook it right here, hold it with your thumb, get it over on the other side, hold it with your thumb again. There you go. And it's really that simple. Now you have trigger stops on both sides. But one problem, and you just saw, one problem that I always seem to have is that it kind of like it doesn't always stay. Like it's hard for it to stay, and that's where you get the tape to come in, right? Especially for the PS5 controller. It was a little easier with the PlayStation 4, but the PS5 controller is a little thicker, it's a little wider, so it's gonna be a little trickier to get it going. See, now I have it. I can use the triggers, you see? I could definitely use the triggers, but not long term, because eventually it starts to move up. So what I tend to do is that I get some tape, and then I just tape it down. There you go. I tape it down like that. Then I get the other side right here, just right here on the side. You don't want to tape it too much. You can even cut off some of the excess tape so it's a little cleaner of a look. But then once you have that, now you have your trigger stops here. They will not be going anywhere. As you can see, I can have fun with this all that I want. These trigger stops will not be going anywhere. You could do this a little cleaner, again, depending on the rubber band. You see I kind of twisted it up a little bit here, but there you go. Either way, works just about the same.
You can also stack super glue on the back of the triggers and then basically use the hardened glue as a trigger stop, which is pretty useful. The only warning I would give is that, you're using a lot of glue, and so I really would recommend that, you practice that a little bit, because last thing you want to do is accidentally glue your triggers into a certain position, and then now how do you get that unglue? You'd probably have to go through a whole lot of rigmarole. It can get to be very messy, but if you know what you're doing, that is also a very good solution and a very long-term solution, because as long as the glue doesn't get heated up and melted away, your controller will have trigger stops for a long time. Another option that's available to you guys, though I don't really recommend this option, you could screw in a screw to the back of both of your triggers to create a trigger stop, and it would work, but I really don't recommend it for a number of reasons. One, once you start it, well, you've now forever changed the look and feel of your controller, so thus giving a very permanent solution to a very temporary and situational problem. I hope you see where I'm getting at here. Because unlike the zip tie solution, if you mess up, you can always just readjust everything. But now if you screw it in, and maybe you use the wrong screw, or maybe you positioned your screw a little bit incorrectly, a little off, maybe too high or too low, now all of a sudden it's like your controller is unusable in a lot of ways, and it just doesn't, I don't really recommend it. Now, as for a couple honorable mentions, Extreme Rate does have some Xbox Series XS trigger stops that you would put on the side grip of the controller, and I think it's really good. I actually found out about it about a week ago because of Tinkerman Mick, so go check out his channel. That dude knows what he's talking about. Really great tip and trick guy for controllers. Unfortunately though, I don't have it in my possession because it would take like a month for me to get it, and I already had this video planned out. But I trust Extreme Rate. They've always been a good company, and Tinkerman Mick, he's given me some really great controller tips, so I'm backing this one full force. The Extreme Rate grips were like $12 or $15. So again, this video is really about free to cheap methods, but if you have $12 or $15, you probably could go and spring for this, and it's looking really good for Xbox controllers, so I would still recommend it. And then for PlayStation 5, what you have is the Quick Shot Pros, which are okay. I mean, if you go on the GameStop website, you see that they have a lot of bad reviews. They're just not really that good. So I don't really recommend them. But if you do put some glue on them, I have found that it can be a little better for making them stay on. But again, that's a $15 purchase that I don't really think is worth it. If I still have to use glue to make this thing work, then you might as well just go with the other methods that I showed earlier in the video. Alright, now that's all the ways that I know how to make homemade DIY cheap trigger stops for their PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS controllers. If you like the video, then like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. Comment down below what I did right or what I did wrong. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.